Welcome to the content, enjoy, subscribe, and turn on notifications. They humiliated her, their laughter echoing across the marble courtyard as she was dragged toward the exit. Her linen dress was crumpled, her ballet flats dusted with dirt from the cobblestone floor. They threw her out of a billionaire's wedding, all because she dressed too simply. "Wedding crasher," someone shouted. "Look at her, probably here to seduce a rich guest." What they didn't know was that the woman they just expelled wasn't a guest. She was the bride. June Parker arrived in Via Este on a late June afternoon, when Lake Como shimmered like liquid glass and the air carried the sweet scent of blooming jasmine. The villa, a 16th-century masterpiece perched on the lake's edge, had been transformed into a fortress of opulence for the wedding of Beckham Rowe, the reclusive tech billionaire whose AI platform Neural Core reshaped global innovation, earning him a $120 billion fortune. The guest list was a closely guarded secret, rumored to include Arab princes, Silicon Valley titans, and European aristocracy. Paparazzi were banned, their boats chased off by private security, and the airspace hummed with helicopters ensuring privacy. This wasn't just a wedding, it was a global event cloaked in exclusivity. June stepped out of a modest Fiat taxi, her cream linen dress fluttering in the breeze. The sleeveless dress hugged her slender frame without ostentation. Her chestnut hair was loosely braided, strands catching the wind. She wore no makeup beyond a swipe of gloss, her only accessory a small invitation card in hand. At 34, June's beauty was quiet but undeniable, high cheekbones, green eyes both warm and sharp, and a calm that anchored the storm around her. She approached the VIP entrance with measured steps, her worn leather flats silent on the cobblestone path. The guard, a broad-shouldered man named Marco with a jaw like granite, stood beneath an archway draped in white roses. His eyes scanned June's outfit, lingering on the absence of diamonds, designer labels, or anything screaming wealth. "Staff use the back," he said, his heavy Italian accent laced with disdain, pointing toward a service alley where caterers hustled with trays. June's lips curved into a faint smile, unfazed. "I'm a guest," she said, her voice clear and steady as a bell cutting through fog. She handed over the invitation. "June Parker." Marco frowned, taking the card and flipping it over as if it might reveal a prank. "Wait here," he grunted, stepping away to mutter into his earpiece. June stood alone, sunlight warm on her shoulders as the first guests began to arrive. A sleek black Rolls-Royce pulled up, 3 women in glittering gowns stepping out, one in emerald sequins, another in sapphire silk, the third in a golden dress that shimmered like molten metal. Their diamonds flashed, necks and wrists heavy with wealth. They paused, noticing June, and their laughter broke like a wave. "Lost, darling?" the woman in gold said, loud enough for the terrace to hear. "What is she?" the bride's maid, begging for tips. She was Vanessa Holt, a hedge fund analyst with a sharp tongue and an Instagram account sharper still. The other two, Elena Voss, daughter of a German media mogul, and Priya Khan, a Bollywood star turned crypto influencer, giggled, eyes raking over June's dress. "Thrift store chic," Elena mocked, snapping a photo with her phone. "This'll go viral." June didn't flinch. She met Vanessa's gaze, her expression calm but piercing, like someone who'd faced bigger storms and walked through unscathed. "You could ask me directly," she said softly, her voice polite but edged with quiet authority. Vanessa blinked, caught off guard, then recovered with a smirk. "Oh, honey, I don't talk to the help." The words were small, sharp cuts. As June stood beneath the rose arch, a group of tech moguls and their wives gathered nearby, their whispers slicing deeper than the lake breeze. "Bold move," Cassandra Lyle, a venture capitalist dripping in rubies, sneered. "Crashing in that rag, probably hunting for a rich widow." Her husband, Owen, laughed loud enough for June to hear. "Bet she's a caterer who stole an invite." Another guest, draining a vodka, shouted, "Throw her to the docks." Their laughter swelled, phones already out, turning June into a punchline before she could speak. She stood there, composed, but their words were venom, unworthy yet relentless. More guests arrived, men in tailored tuxedos, women in haute couture worth more than a house. They circled June, drawn to the spectacle. An older man, Sir Reginald Tate, a British real estate baron with silver hair and a permanent sneer, leaned toward his companion, Irina, the wife of a Russian billionaire. "Does she know this is a billionaire's wedding?" he said, his voice a stage whisper. "Flea market dress and torn shoes don't get you in here." June's fingers tightened briefly on the invitation, the only sign of tension in her serene demeanor. She stood taller, chin slightly lifted, as if their gazes were nothing new. Marco returned, now with a wiry female guard named Sophia, who clutched a clipboard and an unforgiving stare. "Miss," Sophia said, her tone sharper than Marco's. "This entrance is for VIPs. Your invite checks out, but you don't look like you belong. Step aside." Before Sophia could grab June's arm, she stepped closer, brandishing the clipboard like a gavel. "You really thought you'd fool us?" she snapped, loud enough for the terrace to hear. "Fake invites don't get you into a row wedding. Where'd you print this? Your basement?" Guests leaned in, smirking as Marco added, "Confess now, save us the trouble." A woman shouted, "Drag the fraud out." Phones flashed, capturing June's silence, calm and unshaken as Sophia tore the invitation in half, tossing it to the ground. The crowd's cheers were vicious, their glee at her crime like a public execution of her identity. The murmur of the crowd grew, a mix of delight and contempt. Vanessa Holt raised her champagne flute, her voice cutting through. "Gold digger alert," she called, laughing like a cat toying with a mouse. "She's here to trap a rich man before the reception's over." The laughter erupted, harsh and unrestrained. Elena's phone was out again, live streaming, the caption flashing, "Crashing the row wedding in that outfit, bold." Priya chimed in, "Maybe she's hunting for a sugar daddy." So sad. June's eyes flickered with a hint of pain, but it was buried deep beneath her calm. She spoke again, her voice still steady, "I'm here for the wedding, like you. Be kind." The words were gentle but carried weight, silencing Vanessa for a moment. Then Priya laughed, tossing her hair. "Kind, sweetie. This isn't a charity event." Sophia, the guard, had heard enough. "That's it," she said, grabbing June's arm. "Out." Marco seized her other arm, and they began pulling her toward the exit, through the rose arch and down the terrace steps. The crowd followed, like a pack of predators. Phones flashed, capturing June's simple dress, her braids swaying, and the dignity in her stride despite their grip. "Pathetic," Irina muttered, loud enough for June to hear. "No class," Sir Reginald added, his cane tapping the stone. A younger guest, a tech bro named Ethan Caldwell, shouted, "Send her back to economy." The crowd roared, their cruelty a living thing. As the guards dragged June through, a man in a silk tuxedo, Derek Vaughan, a crypto mogul, tossed a handful of cocktail olives at her, one hitting her cheek. "Snacks for the road, babe," he bellowed, sparking more laughter. A woman in pearls fanned herself, spitting, "She's ruining the aesthetic." Another threw a crumpled napkin, yelling, "Wipe off the shame." The crowd surged, their taunts turning physical, filming June's stained dress, her braids slick with olive oil. She walked on, regal, but the crowd's savagery was a cruel carnival, feeding on her silence. June didn't resist. Her steps were even, her face calm, like she was walking through a rain she'd long learned to endure. The terrace stretched on, each moment prolonging the humiliation. Vanessa's voice rang out again, maybe she thought this was a costume party. Elena's live stream hit 10,000 viewers, comments flooding, "Who let her in? Embarrassing." No one stepped forward, no one questioned the guards. The villa's gates loomed ahead, iron and unforgiving, promising expulsion. Elena's live stream hit 20,000 viewers as June neared the gates, her voice a sharp blade. Meet June Nobody, who thought she could scam her way into Beckham Rowe's world, she mocked, zooming in on June's soaked dress and the olive oil on her cheek. Total loser vibes, bet she's homeless tonight. Comments exploded, disgrace. Ban her for life. A guest shouted, make her trend for failure. The internet devoured June's humiliation, memes painting her as a beggar. She walked on, composed, but the invisible wounds of global mockery burned. Then a voice boomed, deep and searing, stopping the world, stop. Let go of my wife. The crowd froze, phones still raised, laughter choking in their throats. June paused, her lips parting in a small, private smile. Beckham stood at the top of the terrace steps, his black suit sharp against the golden light. At 39, he was a contradiction, lean, unassuming, with hazel eyes that could warm a room or burn it down. His dark hair was slightly tousled, like he'd run a hand through it minutes ago. He'd built neural core from a laptop in a dorm room, a kid from Oakland with nothing but grit and a vision. 10 years ago, he was nobody, living on ramen while coding through the night. June was there, his anchor, his truth when the world saw only a dreamer with no shot. He descended the steps, ignoring the gasps, the sudden silence. The guards released June instantly, Marco muttering apologies, Sophia stepping back like she'd touched fire. Beckham reached June, his hand finding hers, his thumb brushing her knuckles. You okay? He asked, his voice low, just for her. She nodded, her green eyes softening. Always, Beck. He turned to the crowd, his presence commanding. A man who's faced boardrooms and governments without blinking. This is June Parker, he said, his voice carrying across the terrace. My wife. We married 6 months ago at a courthouse, with 2 witnesses and a vow. No cameras, no headlines, because that's not us. The crowd's shock was palpable, a collective intake of breath. Vanessa's champagne flute trembled in her hand. Elena's live stream surged to 50,000 viewers, comments erupting, she's his wife. Beckham's eyes hardened, but his voice stayed even. Today was supposed to be our public celebration, a way to share our joy. June chose to arrive like this, not to deceive, but to see who'd look beyond appearances, who'd be kind when they thought no one was watching. He paused, letting the words sink in. You failed her. All of you. His gaze swept the crowd, pinning Vanessa, Elena, Priya, Sir Reginald, Irina, Ethan. You mocked her dress, her shoes, her heart. You called her a gold digger, dragged her out like trash. But June isn't here for money. She gave up a tenured professorship at Yale, tenure, for those who don't get it, to support me when I had nothing. No funding, no name, just a prototype and a prayer. She believed in me when I didn't believe in myself. June stood beside him, hand in hand, her silence louder than any speech. She didn't need to defend herself, her grace did that. The crowd was silent now, their earlier arrogance dissolving. Vanessa's face burned red, her diamonds suddenly garish. Sir Reginald gripped his cane, avoiding Beckham's eyes. Elena lowered her phone, the live stream still running, capturing every word. Beckham's voice softened, but cut deeper. If anyone's chasing gold, it's those who tore her down to feel bigger. You're not here for love or celebration. You're here for status, and that's not what this day is about. A murmur rippled through the crowd, shame mixing with defiance. Ethan Caldwell tried to laugh it off, muttering, bit dramatic, bro. Beckham's eyes flicked to him, and Ethan shrank. June squeezed Beckham's hand, a silent signal, enough. He exhaled, steadying himself, and raised his voice one last time. This ends now, he said. He nodded to Leia Chen, his chief of staff, standing nearby in a navy suit, her tablet glowing with data. Leia, pull the guest list, cross-reference security footage, staff reports, anything we've got. Anyone who insulted June, name them. They're gone. Leia's fingers flew, her face a mask of focus. The crowd held its breath as guards fanned out, earpieces crackling. Vanessa was called first, her gasp audible as a guard touched her shoulder. "Ma'am, you need to leave," he said, gesturing toward the gates. She clutched her purse, stammering, "This is a mistake." But the guard was unmoved, escorting her through the roses, her golden dress trailing like a fallen flag. Elena followed, her phone confiscated to stop the live stream, her protests drowning in the crowd's silence. Priya tried to blend into the crowd, but a guard spotted her, and she was led out, her heels clacking in defeat. Vanessa's exit was a spectacle of collapse. Leia stepped forward, her voice clear, "Vanessa Holt, expelled for slandering June Parker Rowe." Guards led her out, her golden dress catching on a gatepost, tearing to her thigh. She screamed, "I have connections." But paparazzi swarmed, flashes merciless as her heels snapped, sending her sprawling on the gravel. Guests gasped, whispering, she targeted June. Online, her brand crumbled, #Holt humiliated trending globally. Vanessa's empire of scorn collapsed in minutes, her name now trash, while June's truth shone bright. Sir Reginald's face paled as he was approached. "I'm a knight of the realm," he snapped, but the guard was firm, "You were recorded, sir. Let's go." Irina clung to her husband, but he was led out too, their wealth no shield. Elena's downfall came swiftly as Leia declared, Elena Voss, banned for malicious live streaming, accounts frozen, sponsors pulling out. Guards led her through the gates, her face ashen as paparazzi shouted, "Smile, influencer." Her phone, now useless, slipped from her hand, shattering on the stone. Guests whispered, she profited off June's pain. #Elena Erased trended, her followers abandoning her in moments, her digital throne crumbling, her cruelty to June a fatal misstep. June's quiet grace stood taller, her victory sealed without a word. Ethan Caldwell, the tech bro, tried to joke, "Guess I'm out of a neural core deal." But his laugh died as he was led to the gates. Paparazzi outside the villa went wild, flashes lighting the darkening sky, capturing every exit. Headlines were already forming, billionaires booted from Roe wedding, elites humiliated at Como. The terrace was quieter now, the air heavy with reckoning. Beckham turned to June, his anger fading into something raw. "You didn't have to do this," he said, his voice just for her. She smiled, touching his cheek. "I did, for us." She stepped away, slipping into the villa for a moment. When she returned, the crowd's breath caught. June wore a haute couture gown, ivory silk flowing like water, the bodice embroidered with pearls that glowed in the sunset. Her braid was undone, her hair falling in soft waves, a diamond clip sparkling like a star. She was radiant, not because of the dress, but because of the woman within, humble, resilient, herself. Beckham took her hand, his eyes never leaving her. The officiant, an elderly Italian named Father Lorenzo, stepped forward, his white robes rustling. The ceremony began as the lake turned golden, the sky ablaze with pink. Vows were exchanged, June's voice clear, promising to stand by Beckham through every storm. Beckham's voice was softer, vowing to always be her home. The guests, now humbled, watched in silence, some wiping tears. Sir Reginald's cane no longer tapped. Vanessa's laughter was a memory. Their kiss was gentle, a seal of something unbreakable. As they turned to face the crowd, applause began, soft at first, then swelling, a wave of respect. June didn't bask in it. She didn't need to. She'd come to test the world and found it wanting. But she'd also found her place, right here, with Beckham. The reception unfolded under a canopy of stars, the villa's gardens alive with lanterns and music. June and Beckham danced, her gown shimmering, his hand steady on her back. Leia approached in a quiet moment, her tablet now dark. "It's done," she said. "The internet's losing it. June's trending as the billionaire's truth. They're calling her iconic." Beckham grinned, pulling June closer. "She is." June leaned into him, her laugh a soft melody. She'd walked into judgment and emerged stronger, not because she won, but because she'd always been true. The world would remember this wedding, not for the wealth or the scandal, but for the woman who faced a crowd and showed them what true worth is. June Parker Rowe didn't need the spotlight. She was the light.